Nearly 2 years into Israel's war on Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to have made up his mind, not just to keep fighting, but to take it all. Reports from Israeli media say Netanyahu wants a full occupation of Gaza. The remaining 25% his military hasn't already seized, even if it means going into areas where Israeli hostages are still being held. For months, the Israel Defense Forces have controlled roughly 3/4 of Gaza's 141 square miles. Under Netanyahu's reported plan, the army would push into the last quarter, the most densely packed, devastated and desperate part of the enclave, and bring the entire strip under Israeli control. It's a dramatic shift in tone. Ministers say Netanyahu has started using the phrase occupation of the strip in private conversations. One senior official was even quoted saying, "The die is cast. We are going for the full conquest of the Gaza Strip. If the Chief of Staff doesn't agree, he should resign." Inside the military, enthusiasm is limited. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir reportedly opposes the plan, warning it could take years to clear Hamas's underground networks, stretch Israel's manpower to breaking point, and crucially, put the remaining 20 living hostages in mortal danger. Retired Israeli security chiefs, including ex-heads of Shin Bet and Mossad, have called further occupation futile, saying Hamas as an organization may be militarily battered, but its ideology is gaining strength across the Arab world. The IDF's fear is a long, grinding war with no clear exit, while also being responsible for 2 million civilians who have lost nearly everything. Hostage families are furious and terrified. The Hostage and Missing Families Forum warns that an expanded assault could push Hamas to execute captives. The recently released videos of emaciated hostages, including Eviatar David, forced to dig what he says is his own grave, have shocked Israelis and piled pressure on the government to act. But opinion polls still show 3 in 4 Israelis favor a ceasefire deal over a new offensive. Netanyahu's far-right coalition partners, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, want more than just a military push. They have openly called for annexing Gaza and rebuilding Jewish settlements dismantled in 2005. Critics say Netanyahu's full occupation talk may be more about keeping those partners happy and avoiding a coalition collapse than about an actual military blueprint. Palestinian officials suspect it's also a tactic to pressure Hamas at the negotiating table. Where is Washington on all this? President Donald Trump's public stance is neutral.
All of Gaza has been suggested by some Israeli officials.
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food, and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel's going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please.
The US now wants an all-or-nothing plan, all hostages out, Hamas disarmed, Gaza demilitarized, and no half measures. Meanwhile, Axios reported that Trump is preparing for the US to take over humanitarian aid delivery in Gaza, involving Gulf, Jordanian, and Egyptian cooperation, because he thinks Israel's handling of the famine crisis has been inadequate. At the United Nations, officials have warned that expanding Israeli military operations would have catastrophic consequences for millions of Palestinians already living in famine-like conditions. China's deputy UN envoy urged Israel to halt dangerous actions, while several European governments are now threatening to recognize a Palestinian state if there's no ceasefire. The International Court of Justice has already ruled Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories as illegal under international law. From the air, Gaza looks like a wasteland. Whole neighborhoods flattened, craters where roads used to be, and airdrops that barely scratch the surface of need. Hunger is rampant. More than 180 people, half of them children, have died of starvation, with UN monitors warning that famine thresholds have been crossed. Even where aid is allowed in, desperate crowds risk being shot at as they approach convoys. In the past 24 hours alone, dozens have been killed at food distribution points. Netanyahu says Israel's 3 goals remain the same: defeat Hamas, free all the hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a risk to Israel. But with the army resisting his vision, hostages in peril, and the world watching a deepening humanitarian catastrophe, his Occupy Gaza plan may be less a military strategy and more a political gamble. If it goes ahead, the hardest fight may not be on the battlefield, but in the explaining to Israelis, the military, and the world about what comes next.